Welcome back to the Punk Rock Theologian. Today's episode, we're going to be looking at whether believing in Jesus is enough to be saved. Our first reaction is to say, well, obviously, that's exactly what it takes to be saved. But there is this little line in John chapter 12 that kind of throws some doubt on that, and I think it's worth a closer look. Verse 42 says, "Many of the rulers also believed in him," meaning Jesus, "but because of the Pharisees, they did not confess him, lest they be put out of the synagogue." And so, these guys are something worth considering. These men believed in Jesus. If you take that at face value, that means that these men genuinely believe that Jesus is the Son of God, the Messiah. That is something that Jesus said can't happen apart from the Father revealing it to you. And so God has clearly called these people. And yet, does this sound to you like these men are saved? Romans 10:9 says that we must believe in our heart and confess with our mouth, and they refuse to do that. Jesus said in Matthew 10:33 that he will acknowledge whoever acknowledges him and deny whoever denies him. By either of those verses, and there are a dozen more if you want them, these guys don't make the cut. So here we have people who saw Jesus' miracles with their own eyes and heard his teaching with their own ears, and they truly believed that he was the Messiah, and yet there was still something that stopped them from coming to him. This takes me to the parable of the sower in Matthew 13, where Jesus talks about the same seed going in different areas, and one of them is among the thorns. And that's what I see in these guys. Because Jesus said that's someone whose faith is choked out by the cares of this world. That's exactly what's going on here. If you read on to the next verse, John 12:43 says that they loved the praise of men more than the praise of God. They were addicted to their status and reputation, and they were not willing to risk that for the sake of Jesus. You have to really stretch to try to count these people as saved. The problem is that we can easily see that with these nameless, faceless guys from thousands of years ago. But it's a lot harder to accept with someone that you personally know and love. If you're anything like me, you can immediately think of a list of people who would say that they believe in Jesus. I mean, maybe they'd only say that in the right spot, in a safe place. But their life doesn't really reflect it in any way. I'm not talking about judging people by some arbitrary standards, but to paraphrase George MacDonald, what have you done today simply because Jesus said to do it? What have you refrained from doing just because Jesus said not to do it? How is your life different because of Jesus? The men in this story believed in Jesus. That's a simple statement of fact. They did believe in him, but an honest reading of the text certainly does not imply that they were saved by that belief. They missed the boat because they weren't willing to change anything about how they approached life as a result of that belief. Jesus told Peter that it requires a divine revelation to acknowledge him as the Son of God. That was God's part of the equation. He's already taken the first step, and so now these men are faced with a choice. That's exactly how it works with each one of us. God makes the first move to reveal himself to us, and then it's up to us to determine how we're going to respond. Of course, he's a lot more powerful than we are, and he could easily force us to respond to him, but what would be the point of that? Like, as a parent, would you rather bully your child into obedience, or do you want them to respond out of love? Or maybe flip it around and put yourself at the other end of the relationship. We all have people that we obey because we have no choice. There are laws that you have to live by whether you agree with them or not. You may have a boss that you have to do what they say even if you think that they're wrong. Other people we obey out of respect and love. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to determine which one of those is a healthier relationship. This is exactly why there has to be a choice on our end. Until God makes the first move, we're completely incapable of even recognizing him, much less responding. Our own sinful human nature is not going to choose God by default. But once God makes that first step, it's up to us how we respond to it. We are responsible for what we do with that. It's easy to overlook that the root of the word responsible is response. And that's really what matters, is our response. Will we change our minds about what matters most, and then see our lives change as a result?